Hello, beautiful people. I am Melanie Vairawanathan, founder of Melmark Law, which is a Melbourne-based law firm, and co-founder of the Virtual Office. It is honestly such a joy to be here today in a room filled with women who are building careers, businesses, families, and somehow still finding time to build legacies. Women who are juggling life, love, ambition, culture, trauma, healing, and still showing up looking so fabulous. Today, I want to speak to you about something very real and very personal. I want to talk to you about my story, not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. And my hope is that somewhere in my journey, you see parts of your own, that you hear something that reminds you of your strength, your power, or the possibilities waiting for you. My story is about a 17-year-old girl who left Sri Lanka and came to Australia with almost nothing except a dream, a work ethic, and a quiet belief that life could be built differently. It's a story of courage and motherhood, of grief and rebuilding, of innovation, resilience, and refusing to accept that the life in front of me was the only one available. So I built a new one from the ground up. And if any part of that speaks to you, then this conversation is absolutely for you. I grew up in Sri Lanka in a vibrant Tamil household, a home filled with church bells, aunties, uncles, and cousins, culture, community. It was full of love, but also full of expectations, especially for girls. Girls should be quiet, girls should be agreeable, girls shouldn't challenge. But I didn't fit that mold. I asked why, constantly, relentlessly. By 12, I decided I wanted to become a lawyer long before I understood what a legal career meant, but I understood injustice. The people who made it all possible. The first person is my mum, my heart, my first leader. She's the most incredible woman I know. She wasn't just smart, she was brilliant. She won the President's Prize in Sri Lanka as a little girl, one of the highest academic distinctions in the country. She earned a place at university, something exceptionally rare for a Tamil woman at that time. She was destined for an extraordinary academic life. But she grew up in a very traditional household. And despite her prices, her intelligence, her acceptance into university, her family told her, no, your path is marriage. So she did what countless brilliant women of her generation had to do. She gave up her dreams. She married. She had me and my sister. She devoted her life to raising us. But here's what makes her exceptional. She never passed on those limitations to me, not once. She raised me with courage, loyalty, conviction, resilience, unconditional love, and limitless belief. Everything I am today, as a mother, as a lawyer, as a founder, and as a leader, is built on her brilliance and her sacrifice. And this is where I want to pause and share something with every woman in this room. Sometimes the women before us didn't get to rise, so they built us to soar. That truth has guided every chapter of my life. It is why I work the way I do, why I lead the way I do, and why I believe so deeply in lifting the next generation higher than we were ever allowed to stand. The next person was my uncle Krishna. Alongside my mother, there was him. He was the first person in our family to graduate. He believed fiercely in the power of education, not just as a pathway, but as liberation. He backed me relentlessly. On top of the scholarship I earned to study at Monash University, he paid my university fees and the life-changing opportunity to build a future here. He invested in my potential. He believed in me in a way that changed my entire trajectory. But like so many migrant stories, there's always a painful chapter. When I was 3 months pregnant in December 2023, my uncle suddenly fell ill in Sri Lanka and he passed away. I was shattered. This was the man who paved my path, who funded my education, who believed in me long before I did, and I could not even attend his funeral. This is the quiet, invisible price migrant families pay. We lose our families, we lose our village. Our children grow up without the grandparents we had, without the aunties who fed us, the cousins we played with every Sunday, the movie nights, the games, the freedom of a childhood surrounded by familiar voices and open doors. My son now has to FaceTime the people who raised me in real life. He knows his family through screens. He waves to grandparents he cannot touch. He laughs with cousins he will only see once every few years. He will never know the fullness of the village that raised me, the warmth, the chaos, the effortless closeness we took for granted. And that grief sits in your bones in a way that is very hard to explain. That loss shaped me. It softened me in some places and hardened me in others. But every day I lead, every day I build, and every day I rise is my way of honoring my uncle, my mother, and making sure the distance our children live with turns into the legacy that they grow from. I arrived in Australia at 17 years old, a girl who had never been on a plane before. My first ever flight was alone, leaving my entire family behind, landing in Melbourne to a life I had never seen, with no support network and no safety net. I arrived with 2 suitcases, a scholarship, and a determination that had to become my backbone. I worked multiple part-time jobs to fund my living expenses. I interned everywhere I could. I built my entire life from scratch through grit, survival, discipline, and hope. And that's where my next leadership lesson comes from. Resourcefulness will take you further than resources ever will. Because it was never about what I had, it's about who I was becoming. Now, before I built my career in family law, I survived an abusive relationship. And for a long time, I was embarrassed to speak about it, especially now as a family lawyer. It felt contradictory. It felt exposing. And I was worried that people would ask the questions that survivors hate. Why did you stay? Why didn't you leave sooner? But I eventually realized something powerful. Silence protects the wrong people. And I decided to speak about it because family violence doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about your culture, your education, your income, your intelligence, or your career. It can happen to anyone, even the girl who would one day become a family lawyer fighting for other women to rebuild their lives. Trauma changes you. It deepens your empathy. It sharpens your intuition. It teaches you to read fear in someone else's eyes without a single glance. So when my clients now sit with me, I don't just understand the legal issues, I understand the emotional ones, the fear, the confusion, the shame, the courage that it takes to show up. And here's the truth I learned in that chapter of my life, one that has guided my work, my leadership, and my heart ever since. Your deepest pain becomes your deepest purpose if you allow it to. That pain didn't break me. It built me into the lawyer, the woman, and the advocate that I am today. I started my legal career at a suburban general practice. My very first job in law was actually unpaid for 6 months. I worked there during the day, learning everything that I could. Then I would go straight into a market research job at night, just to pay my bills. That was my reality. From there, I worked at a Melbourne city firm. Then I became a senior associate, head of family law. I loved the work, but as I climbed higher, I saw the truth more clearly. The legal system wasn't built for women like me, not for migrant women, culturally diverse women, women without generational wealth, women who wanted families, women who didn't have a village, women who refused to choose between ambition and motherhood. I realized that if I wanted a life that held both big career and a family, leadership and motherhood, ambition and softness, I would have to build it myself. So I left my secure job and opened Melmark Law in August 2022 with a laptop, a desk, and blind faith. And 4 months later, I found out I was pregnant. There is no manual for morning sickness before court, fatigue halfway through an affidavit, taking client calls while trying not to vomit, the fear of losing momentum, the fear of failing your unborn child, and building a business with absolutely no safety net. I was growing a firm and growing a baby at exactly the same time. And in those moments when I was both terrified and determined, I learned something that has stayed with me through every season of business and motherhood. There is no perfect time. You build while balancing. You build while you're scared. You build while exhausted. You build while healing. You build while carrying an entire life, sometimes literally. That truth became the philosophy that Melmark Law was built on. My beautiful son Malakai was born in March 2024. He's a cheeky, bright, joyful little boy and the absolute center of our world. But I didn't have maternity leave. He was born on the on the Thursday before Easter, and by Tuesday I was in court. For months, I drafted affidavits with him in a sling. I filed documents with him asleep beside me. I fed between client calls. I settled documents at 3 a.m. Most clients never even knew I'd had a baby. And it was in that season, the season of sleepless nights, overflowing love, and relentless deadlines, that I realized something so profound. Motherhood did not pull me away from my ambition. It sharpened it. It focused it. It made me even more determined to build the life I wanted him to grow up watching. Motherhood does not dilute ambition. It intensifies it. I lived that truth every single day. With a newborn in one arm and a law firm in the other, I became stronger, clearer, and more unstoppable than I have ever been. At Melmark Law, we practice law differently. We are trauma informed, culturally aware. We are compassionate, collaborative, human first. Because behind every file is a real person, someone who is terrified, overwhelmed, grieving, rebuilding, or simply trying to survive one of the hardest seasons of their life. And very early on, I realized something. No matter how strong your strategy is, no matter how complex the matter, no matter how many wins you have in court, what clients remember most is how you made them feel. And that truth sits at the heart of my practice. People may forget your strategy, but they will never forget your kindness. It is not weakness, it is leadership, it is advocacy, it is humanity, and it is the reason why Melmark Law has become what it is today. When I launched Melmark Law, I could not afford staff. So I did what migrant women do best. I got resourceful. I built a remote Sri Lankan team to help me survive those early days. It started as a necessity, a just get through the week solution. But something beautiful happened. That small team became the foundation of the virtual office, a company now supporting law firms and professional services across Australia. We create meaningful employment for talented women in Sri Lanka, and we give Australian firms access to high quality, affordable housing. But more than that, I merged my heritage with my business. I built a bridge between the country that raised me and the country that gave me opportunity. I honored where I came from while building where I was going. And in doing so, I created a model that is both global and deeply personal. What began as a survival tactic became a national innovation. What began as a barrier became a blueprint. Remember, your heritage is not something to overcome. It is actually something to build from. As you all know, lawyers are trained to fight, but families are not battlefields. Very early on, I knew I wanted to practice differently. So at Melmark Law, we built a legal practice and a movement grounded in kindness, clarity, collaboration, and trauma-informed practice. Because kindness is not soft, kindness is powerful. Kindness calms, kindness protects children, kindness prevents families from falling apart in ways that are completely avoidable. Kindness gives people dignity in the darkest moment of their lives. And when you practice law this way, everything changes. People open up, co-parenting becomes safer, matters de-escalate, resolutions come faster. Clients walk away feeling understood, not destroyed. And I'm proud to say that this approach works. In just 3 years, Melmark Law has gone from a desk and a dream to one of Australia's most recognised, trusted, transformative boutique family law firms. We have glowing 5-star reviews, a national reputation for excellence and compassion, clients across the country who choose us specifically for our trauma-informed and culturally grounded practice, a thriving, heart-led team, award-winning leadership, and an entire community who knows that Melmark Law is different. We're not just another law firm. We are modern, women-led, migrant-built, values-driven movement, a practice proving that compassion and strategy are not opposites. They are the strongest partnerships in family law. This is the future of our profession, and Melmark Law is leading it. And our impact goes beyond the courtroom. This year, we created No Place to Go, a sold-out event raising thousands of dollars for transitional housing and family violence support. On a topic that once broke me, we built a platform that protects, educates, and empowers other women. We turned my deepest wound into a community movement, into real funding, into real change, into hope for women who have nowhere else to go. That is the heart of Melmark Law. That is what makes us different. That is why our work matters. We're not just another law firm. We are a movement, a modern, women-led, values-driven force for safety, justice, and dignity. This is the future of family law, and Melmark Law is leading it. In just under 3 years, I won the AusMumpreneur Legal Services Award earlier this year. I won Sole Practitioner of the Year at the Lawyers Weekly Australian Law Awards earlier this year. I was named one of Victoria's top 100 multicultural business leaders for legal and finance innovation again this year. I am also a finalist in the Women Changing the World Awards. Melmark Law has been named a finalist for Boutique Diversity Law Firm of the Year Women in Law Awards. These achievements are not about ego. They're about representation. They're about showing what happens when a migrant woman refuses to choose, refuses to shrink, refuses to apologize for her ambition or motherhood, refuses to accept that someone like her does not belong in powerful rooms. Every award is proof that you can. You can build a law firm with no safety net. You can lead with compassion, practice differently, honor your culture, raise your children, and still rise without compromise. These recognitions honor the women before me who never had the chance, and they light the path for the women who are coming next. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not underqualified. You are not less. You do not need permission. You do not need perfect timing. You do not need a family blueprint. You do not need a village to begin. You simply need to begin because your life will expand in proportion to the permission that you give yourself to rise. Today, Melmark Law is thriving. The virtual office is growing. I'm recognized nationally. My son is watching his mother build boldly and unapologetically, and I want to say this plainly. I built all of this, a law firm, a movement, national awards, a legacy from nothing. I came to this country with 2 suitcases, a dream my mother wasn't allowed to have, a belief my uncle invested in, and the courage to make it real. I built this as a migrant woman, as a survivor, as a mother, as a founder, and as a leader. And I'm standing here on this global stage today, not because everything went right, but because I refused to stay small when everything went wrong. If you are waiting for a sign, you're wondering whether you can build, whether you can rise, whether you can create something extraordinary, look at me. Look at what I carried. Look at where I started. And look at what I have built. I want you to leave today feeling inspired and equipped. So here are 3 simple tools that you can start using tonight. The first one is the 2-minute permission reset. Every morning, ask yourself, if I wasn't afraid, what would I do today? You don't need to transform your whole life. Just take one small action, one email, one call, one step. Fear doesn't disappear. You simply learn to walk with it. The second point, the gratitude anchor. Recently, I began journaling every night. Nothing complicated, just 2 questions. What am I grateful for today? What did I do today that my younger self would be proud of? This shifted everything for me. It showed me growth instead of guilt, progress instead of pressure, movement instead of self-criticism. It reminds you you're building even on the days that it feels like you're barely surviving. And the last one is the 5-month rule. If it won't matter in 5 months, don't give it 5 minutes of your peace. We as women carry weight we were never meant to hold. This rule frees you. It brings you back to what actually matters. It anchors your energy where it belongs, on your purpose, your joy, and your future. So as you walk out of this room today, I want you to remember you do not need permission. You do not need perfection. You just need courage, even a tiny bit, repeated daily. Because if a 17-year-old girl with 2 suitcases and no safety net can build all of this, just imagine what you're capable of when you finally give yourself permission to rise. Thank you so much, everyone.